Hello, my name is Visti Larsen. Herein I'm presenting the second video on the topic of nāmakāraṇa, produced for the Devaguru Brihaspati channel. Thank you for the good comments and the requests for a new video. The more likes, the more requests and good comments we get, the more videos we present. So keep up the kudos and the interest in the topics that we're presenting. The last video on the topic of nāmakāraṇa was not complete. I covered the topics of finding the first sound, the first syllable of the name, and also finding how to find that syllable based on several factors, namely using the nakshatra chakra called avakahada, also known as hoda chakra, as well as ascertaining which planet is the strongest in the chart and thereby amplifying it. Herein showing that this procedure of finding the name is that which is employed by many of the more learned and more and astrologers with more responsibility in the various parts of India, and also showing that we are not using a simple technique of just examining the moon's nakshatra and giving that name. In this webinar series, or this particular second webinar on the topic of nāmakāraṇa, I'll be covering some other topics, and let me show them to you. Here we are. We are going to be speaking on the topic of Swara chakra. There are more than one topic indeed, but we have Swara chakra, and in this we are going to be discussing how to find the appropriate name, or rather vowel, in that name. For as far as we have gathered so far, what we've done is simply found out what should be the first letter. It could be a vowel, it could be a consonant, but we have not, even if we found the consonant, we have not found out how the rest of the name should sound. And herein which we must also ascertain the first vowel of the name. Now, this can be the first letter of the name. Let's say in our previous calculations and estimates, we found that a vowel sound should initiate the name. For example, a very strong sun in the chart indicating a vowel sound is important. But which vowel? And also if you found a consonant instead, let's say you found the J, like in the Jawarhalal Nehru case, was supposed to be the first consonant or first letter of the name, then what should be the vowel which follows that? Should it be J and an E, or J and an A, or J and an A, or J and an O? Which one should it be? And why should we find that in the name? What's the importance of using the appropriate vowel? So to do this, we will be learning three different principles which all complement each other. One is the Swara chakra, probably the most important, and I'm highlighting herein. The second is Baladiyavasta. Yes, Baladiyavasta we'll be using for this, and I'll show you how we use it to find out how the name is going to affect the person. Pancasvara Daša, which is more useful for people who want to change their name after some time. Let's say you have given a birth name and later on you want to change it. So the Pancasvara Daša will tell us what will be the impact of you changing the name. And finally, Lagna Bheda. Now, Lagna Bheda it could already be taught after we had taught the topics in the last webinar, and many people tend to end with that, because if you can find a name and also with the vowel, with the consonants, and also fit the Lagna Bheda, you've basically done a lot of work already, and you will actually give a fantastic name. But sometimes we can make a miss or a mistake when it comes to the vowel sound, and therefore this has to be taught before Lagna Bheda. So let me show you how this is done. One second, just need to. So this is the Swara chakra. The Swara chakra consists basically of the 12 signs housing the 12 vowel sounds. So what that means is that any of these signs can get activated by the first vowel of the name. For example, my name is Visti. The first vowel sound is the I sound, all right? It comes from the sign of Gemini. So that means the sign of Gemini becomes quite pivotal in the name Visti. All right. You'll notice that I have two I's in my name, but the last one is a long one, E, and the first one is a short one, E. Visti. You see, Visti. That's what people call me. That's what people say. In Danish, however, where my name has an origin, the actual origin of my name is Danish. We say Visti. So it is actually, both sounds are E. Of course, we are only interested in the first vowel sound. So after the V comes the E. So that means the sign of Gemini is the most important in my chart when it comes to my health, when it comes to my, what we call the happiness I have in my life. The amount of purity also becomes quite pivotal from this sign. And I'll explain that in a minute. Now, this particular vowel chart is based on the signs, not the houses. So although in the North Indian chart, this is depicted from the ascendant, this is irrespective of your ascendant. For example, my ascendant is Scorpio, but I will still be in Gemini, A will be in Taurus, and A will still be in Aries. Okay? So for me, my vowel sound is an 8th from the ascendant. 8th therefrom. Now, we have to use this with every name, and you will be able to tell whether it's a good name or not based on that first vowel sound. And how to do this? That first vowel sound, at least as far as one's first look at the chart should be concerned, ensure the first vowel sound is well placed from the moon. So for example, in my chart, we just ascertained that the first vowel sound is I in Gemini. So Gemini is the focal point. Now, where is my moon sign? My moon sign is Virgo. Now, from Virgo, where my moon is, Gemini happens to be in the 10th house. So, just depicting here in the South Indian chart, moon in Virgo, and my first vowel is in the 10th therefrom. So, this is a very good name for my health. That means that if I have my name having a vowel sound of E involved, it is likely to ensure that I'll always have good, strong health. Now, why does this sound, this vowel sound, give good health? The word swara, okay? The word swara also refers to breath. It has to do with our breathing. It refers to our ability to breathe, in other words. It refers to also the quality of breath. So the moon being the consumer of this planet, the one who is eating, who is breathing, consuming air in this case, its ability to breathe in this planet is going to be affected by the first vowel sound. So herein where Gemini is well placed from my moon, Gemini having the E sound well placed from my moon in Virgo, implies that I will be able to consume properly in this planet. I will have enough of food to be consumed in this planet. This can be prana or rai. That's prana refers to breath or air, and rai refers to actual food. So that sound is helping me do that. That's good for me. So if we were to make an estimate, let's say in Jawarhalal Nehru's chart, we would be looking to see whether the sound, or first vowel sound of his name, which is all right, it's J, It's not J-A, it's not Jawaharlal, it's Jawaharlal. So the first sound is and that for him falls in the sign of Aries. Now we would then look to see where his moon would be to understand whether it's a good name for him as far as his health is concerned. Now we'll do that in a minute, but then we should also refer to something more in this topic. For example, I just mentioned that this sound is an 8th from my ascendant of Scorpio. Now what that means is that, you see, what this vowel sound is doing is basically sustaining you on this planet. It's like a form of Vishnu sustaining you on the planet. So what happens is, because this sound is sustaining you, this vowel sound, it implies that also the form of Vishnu sustaining you will also come from that sign. This has two implications. Number one, if you know which sound is sustaining you on this planet and will know which sound of Vishnu or name of Vishnu is associated with the same sign of that place where the sound is coming from, then by worshipping that form of Vishnu, you can ensure every day that you are getting what we call clean food. It's good or clean food, all right? Secondly, it also has a double implication in that because Vishnu is there, you have to keep that sign clean, all right? For example, for me, that sign is the 8th house. Gemini for me, where my sound is coming from, is the 8th from my ascendant. Gemini is 8th from my Lagna or ascendant Scorpio. So that means all topics related to the 8th house, I have to make an effort to keep clean in my life. Could it mean something as simplistic as trying to ensure that I get up early in the morning? 8th house has to do with getting up early, okay? Being able to wake up, get up. What would you advise me to do? You would be telling me, Visti, before you get out of bed in the morning, make sure you do some prayers which are going to ensure that you are keeping your purity. For example, in the tradition, we teach mantras to do before leaving the bed so that one will be pure. All right? What could this be? There is a very nice prayer. Samudra Mekala Devi Parvata Shtana Mandala Vishnu Patni Namastubhyam Padasparsam Kshamaswame. You're asking for forgiveness for the sin of your feet touching Mother Earth. That is a prayer we do for that. So that would be important if a person has, let's say, their swara in the 8th house from the ascendant, because when they get up in the morning, they have to ensure they keep their purity. So a prayer like that will ensure purity is kept, for example. Please forgive me, Mother Earth, that I'm about to touch upon you and step on you. Please forgive me for any sin that's committed in that. That's a very nice thought, a very nice prayer. These are very common in Vaishnava traditions that they would teach such a prayer. Secondly, the activities of the 8th house could also refer to going to the bathroom. So that means here's a person who has to stay clean in that matter. It doesn't mean they should not go to the bathroom. It means that they have to be sure that they have a good rhythm in the morning when staying clean, about going to the bathroom and all that stuff. What else does the 8th house indicate? It could also indicate the topic of the occult. Spirituality is related to the 8th house. So that means, Visti, for me, that means that the topic of Jyotiṣa or the topic of occult or spirituality in any form or manner, I have to ensure that I keep purity in thought, purity and action in those topics. I could not use those topics for anything wrong. Any wrongdoing there would strike me significantly and also affect health. So by keeping the 8th house clean and by appropriating these aspects of life, we are ensuring that the person's life is happy. All right? The health is also good because of that. So figure out where your vowel sound is falling from your ascendant. In those matters of life, you need to be very clean. You cannot have any skeletons in the closet, as we call it. You should not have any problems there, as the resultant effect of this would be bad health, especially. It would also affect one's happiness in this planet. So that is a stepping stone to ensure that if you are giving somebody a name, ensure it is of a house from the ascendant, which is easy to maintain, because otherwise their life is going to be affected negatively. So two factors. Number one, placement from the moon to at least ensure good consummation, good food, good air, fresh air, if you will. And from the ascendant to ensure that the person has an ease in ensuring this house is clean. Maybe in my chart, because the lord of that sign, Mercury, is joined Jupiter, it's not hard to keep that sign clean. But for other people who have, let's say, malefics join the sign or its lord, it could be a severe predicament in their life. All right? Somebody's interrupting us. On this slide, you will see the attempt to use the Swara chakra on Jawarhalal Nehru's chart. The name Jawarhalal Nehru, and I've also written it in Devanagari to be sure that we have the actual vowel sound right. After the Ja, we see that there's an akshara, which corresponds to Aries, as I mentioned earlier. And we see that Aries happens to be, for Jawaharlal Nehru, not only 10th from the moon, but also 10th from the ascendant. Firstly, it's excellent that we can see that his 10th from the moon is being fortified by this name to ensure that he is going to have good health because of this name. Now, secondly, we also notice this is 10th from the ascendant, which means that he has to make an extra effort to keep his karma yoga, his work, very clean. If not, he could have difficulties in life. So by giving him this name, we are ensuring good health, but we need to ensure his karma is clean. That may not be so easy. That depends on the native. How to know if it's easy or not? We could probably see the Lord of the sign. The Lord of the sign is Mars, because there are no planets there, so check the Lord. And Mars is in Virgo. So if Mars is in Virgo, it's an enemy sign. That's not easy. It's not easy to keep one's karma clean. And why? This is third from the ascendant, because of battles and enmity. Battles will come up. And obviously, being in politics as he was, it probably was not easy to keep his karma clean. So that's how we would use this first information. Now, at this stage, it would be appropriate to check charts where people have bad health. And what you would do is exactly this. You would see, where is the vowel sound placed in the sign-wise, and where is this from the moon, firstly? Is the consummation of air and food all right? Is it working to the person's benefit? And if so, then you can say, yes, it's a good name. Otherwise, you might want to consider, especially if it's a child, to consider making a change in the name. So that's how we start off. This is Swara Chakra. Now, let's take the next step. The next step is also related to the vowel, the first vowel. Now, this is where we get a bit more precise. You see, you could have chosen any good house from the moon to find the right vowel sound. In Nehru's chart, being that the moon was in Cancer, you could also have chosen the sound E, all right, long I. The fourth house they're from the moon would have been Libra. And if I recall correctly, A is there. The trines to the sign of Cancer have the sound I in Scorpio, and in Pisces they sound And in the seventh house from Cancer, which is Capricorn, there's Au, that sound is there. You will notice that all the even signs have long forms of the vowel, okay? Dirgha, as we call it. Now let's move away from that for a second. Now, what is important also in this is noting is that when we could choose all these options, essentially we'd be given about 6 choices for him for a vowel sound. It's a good idea to try and see if we can give a more finite option. And this can be based on what we call Baladi Avasta. All right? Now, the Baladi Avasta is useful because what it does is it maps in to 5 different states. All right? Avasta is referring to state, and Baladi refers to the states beginning with Bala, or what we call infant stage or the child stage. So if you see this table that is given here, you will notice the vowels are given in pairs, and we're given 5 pairs. There's I, U, E, I, and O, and Au. O, Au are together, I are together, U, and etc. They are together, pairs. I've given the same in Devanagari. Now, how to calculate who is in which state? Because what's going to happen is planets in the sign, based on their degrees, are going to be in a avasta. And these will correspond to certain sounds. So that means you can activate a planet with a different vowel sound. But it's not always the same planet. It depends on which degrees it occupies. For example, if in an odd sign, between 0 and 6 degrees, let's say you have the moon placed there between 0 and 6 degrees. Or it could be Mars, let's say. Then, if you were to use a vowel, you would activate Mars in the chart. If a planet was between 6 and 12 degrees in an even sign, that's over here, the even signs, 6 and 12 degrees in even signs, then you will activate that planet with the sound E or I. Again, this is the first vowel sound. Whichever follows the first consonant or whichever is the first vowel letter, this will activate, that vowel sound will get activated. Now, for ease, what is done in software is that they simply, with this information from Parashara about Baladi Avastas, simply slate, okay, which planets are in Bala Avasta, which are in Kumara, which are in Yuva, which are in Vriddha Avasta, and Mrityu Avasta. Okay? And so, based on that, they will give you the Baladi Avashtas, and these Baladi Avashtas would correspond to these sounds. Now, not everybody does this work. Not every tradition uses this information, but this is useful information, and you will see in a minute how we can really broaden our horizon with the use of this topic of Baladi Avashta. What exactly are you doing by using this technique? Let's say you decide to activate certain planets. If you do this, then your mind will head in the direction of those planets in those avashtas. Your mind will go in the direction of the planets in those places. Okay? So which planets should you try to look for? People will tell you the only sound which is appropriate, especially our tradition will tell you, the only sound which is appropriate is that which is heading towards the soul. For example, I have in an even sign, I have Atmakaraka, Chara Atmakaraka. That's the soul, you see. Our soul is the Chara Atmakaraka. My Chara Atmakaraka is Rahu, and he's placed between 0 to 6 degrees in an even sign. So that means if I were to have been given a name to activate or head in the direction of my soul, for my mind to head in the direction of my soul, it would have to be a name whose first sound would be either O or Al, first vowel sound, that is. Now, unfortunately, that means I would not be called Visti, I would be called Vosti, or maybe Vausti. Now, because you have two choices, you can, of course, choose which of them fits the Swara chakra I taught earlier, much easier or much better. Okay? Now, what if I use this information and say, all right, my name is Visti. So that means I'm in the group which is E or E. It means the planets will be in Kumara Avashta. They'll either be in odd signs between 6 and 12 degrees or in even signs between 18 to 24 degrees. All right? So now, in my case, in odd signs, I don't have any planets between 6 and 12 degrees, but at least in odd signs. But in the even signs, I do have some planets. All right? I particularly have Saturn over there. And Saturn in my chart is in the 11th house, and it could indicate studying the topic of Jyotiṣa possibly, because 11th house has specifically to do with occult study, whereas the 8th house is occult itself. Okay? Occult practice is the 8th house, occult study is the 11th house. So possibly my name Visti would lead my Saturn in that direction. Interesting. If I recall also, no, actually in even signs, my chart is quite barren in this topic, at least between 18 and 24 degrees. But this is how we would cause the mind to go in a certain direction. We can instigate the mind. The person will go in that line in life. Saturn in my chart is Amatya Karaka, not Atma. It's Amatya. Amatya has to do with work, has to do with successive work. It has to do with working for governments and ministries, possibly also. Okay, depends on the chart whether that possibility is there. So choosing the right name can lead you in that direction. All right? So this is the second part of choosing the vowel sound. Okay? We prefer it is the direction of the soul. All right? Let us see the next slide where we can get some insight into this. And now, this is the case for, this is the Baladi Avashta for Jawarhalal Nehru. I did this by hand to be sure that it was right. And I notice here that for him, when you see the bottom row of the table, you will see the grahas. And you will notice that in E and E, there he has 3 planets. He has most planets in the U and U positions. And Mars and Sun occupy the Vriddha Avashta with AI and Sun with OAU. He has no planet in the Bala Avashta corresponding to the first vowel of his name. So what's happening here? His mind is not forced to go in one direction or the other. It is likely that he is a person who could basically move in the direction that the wind blows. All right? See, what we're doing is trying to motivate the mind in a certain direction. So what could be expected of such a person? This person may expound on topics related to religion. This person may be interested in politics. The person may be interested in culture and travel. The person may also dedicate a lot of time for the relationships. The person may be interested in shoes. The person, I mean, you could have a variety of focuses because there's nothing specific. All right? Nehru's life, I didn't know Nehru that well personally, but when you see his biographies, you will see that he had a very versatile life. It was not just a single-minded focus. Yes, he had his hand in politics. His name did give him the blessing of that because of the first letter. But the vowel sound is not giving him a specific focus as far as his mind is concerned. So this is personal. We're looking into the person's deep vested motivation and interests in life. We can actually direct the person to go in a singular interest if we can adjust the vowel sound, of which we all recommend. Preferably it's that of the soul, nāmakāraṇa. All right? So this is worth considering. It would be nice maybe to adjust the vowel sound for some people to allow the focus to be something which they could benefit a lot from spiritually, if you think that's appropriate. After all, if you should live a long life, let it be a long life lived thinking about the divine. That would be nice. It doesn't mean you will be a hermit. It just means every action you perform will at least have your mind thinking in that direction. That's good to know. Okay. This comes together with the third topic of today. You'll notice the table doesn't look much changed from the earlier slides, namely the Pancasvara Daša. See, once you have found the first vowel from the previous two steps that you have encountered, then you can actually draw a Daša. All right? And that Daša is going to indicate when certain focuses of the mind come to fore. All right? So basically it's like this. Whichever is the first vowel in this order given above, a, I, u, e, o, or a, I, u, u, e, I, o, au. These 5 groups are also going to indicate 5 portions of 12 years each, called the Pancasvara Daša. All right? The first vowel will be from 0 to 12 years of age. The second will be from 12 to 24. The third from 24 to 36. The fourth from 36 to 48. The fifth from 48 to 60. After which the Daša recedes. The sixth Daša from 60 to 72. The seventh Daša from 72 to 84. The eighth from 84 to 96. The ninth from 96 to 108. And the 10th from 108 to 120. Of course, should we even live that long, it'll be relevant. But you are basically, by using this information of the Pancasvara Daša, you get to know 2 things. Where is the mind's focus right now? And you get to know something else also. What if you change your name? If you change your name, this Daša will be forced to change. And you will actually have a predicament where you could change the focus of life and change the Daša of life as a result as well. You get to know some other information. If you have these 5 portions or 10 portions of 12 years each, you have a way of differentiating between the 12 years of the Sudarshan Chakra Daša, which some people also call the Brigo progression. Okay? And what's happening is let's say you're looking at the age of the first year. The first year is the first house. But the 13th year is also the first house. And the 25th year is also the first house. How to differentiate? So what would you do? Well, now you have a way to differentiate because you will know that in which groups of these 12 years you're in. And I will show this in the next slide, where we'll show an example of this. On this next slide, you will see the chart, or rather the table, for Cassius Clay. Basically what we have here, and what we are trying to understand from this chart, is how his dashas are moving in a certain direction because of the first vowel sound. So essentially what's happening is this. His first vowel sound is in Cassius, Cassius. So that's an sound. So this will correspond to that his beginning of life is dominated by Venus, and this is going to last. Okay, now it doesn't say this, it says on the next slide, I'm sure, but you will see that basically he's activated Venus from the beginning of his life. And if we go to the Pancasvara Daša on the next slide, where we also group the grahas, I hope, let me just see here. Here we go. Then we see that the actual dashas that he will go through in life are actually indicated by this. From 0 to 12, he's under the influence of Venus. And then from 12 to 24, it's under Moon, Mars, Mercury, and Jupiter. Now, those who know the chart of Cassius Clay, or as we know him as Muhammed Ali, we know that he was a boxer. So that implies that there should be some strong influence of Mars on his life. And it was in this time, from the age of 12 to 24, that he won some of the main titles. His main boxing titles was occurring during this time. You can see how the clear focus between the age of 12 to 24 is on the Moon, Mars, Mercury, and Jupiter yogas. Now, as those of us who also know, Cassius Clay changed his name. And if you see the next slide, we can see the same table, just with some additions. You will notice that I've marked that between 12 and 24, he changes his name. And particularly when he changed his name, he changed his vowel sound. He changed his direction or vowel sound from the sound to that of u, as in Muhammad. Okay? From Cassius became u, as in Muhammad. The Muhammad became his first name, the vowel sound u changed, and he changed in every way he could. His official name was now Muhammad, literally rejecting his old name, calling it his slave name, so therefore he would not accept it anymore. So now there's a change happening, and exactly this age of 12 to 24, things are shifting. Now, if things are going to shift because of his change of his first letter of his name, a lot of changes are going to occur. All right? Because then this table is going to start becoming defunct. All right? Because his first letter was not it has become u. So instead of starting from here with the and starting with Venus, I have to now start the table from u and start with Yuva, where there's actually no planet. So let me show this on the next slide. This is his new Pancasvara Daša. Because of the change of name, his change of focus has also happened. Now, I wish the table would have been a bit cleaner than this, but you can see that the U, if it initiates the name, then the first 12 years of life, no graha is important. But we're not interested in the first 12 years of life anymore, because he's already in his age of 22 when he changes his name. So between 12 and 24, he has suddenly come under the influence of the nodes. So the nodes suddenly have had an impact on him. You can see how the shift of the table has happened, all right? The whole table has shifted. Everything has moved. And now the Daša has also moved because he's at that age of 22 or whatnot. And his focus is, instead of the earlier Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, it's now on Rahu and Ketu. Now, you'll notice here I've added some parentheses here. These are the Charakarakas, because then when we can get to know why did he make the change and what is his focus of his mind now. Rahu and Ketu implies something international, something going abroad, breaking boundaries. He was trying to show a more international, what we call a reputation of his. He traveled to Africa and participated in boxing matches there to show that America was not the center of the world. He also his name also started detaching himself from the roots that he had in America, and chose a name which ascribed to what he believed were his roots as being an African, or an African American in his case, and chose a different religion as well. So you can see a big change has happened. Rahu and Ketu are coming into his life. Now, Rahu specifically is the Jyotiṣa. Jyotiṣa implies community, Jati as we call it. He is more interested in his community. He's not interested only in his boxing career. He wants his work and his name to also reflect with the impact on his community and what's good for his community. He's getting involved in politics, especially if Rahu in his chart associates with 10th house, which I can say it does in his chart, not from this table. But he would be likely very interested in politics, community projects, anything related to the community to improve and make the community better. So that's what's happening as a result of this particular name change. And the rest of his life will also be impacted. After the age of 24, he is going to get into the realm of Saturn nāmakāraṇa, which means he'll start getting very spiritual. He'll be more interested in settling down because of Dara-kāraka there as well, having a spouse, settling down, having kids and whatnot. His interest would be more in that direction. Then we can also see how the latter stages of his life are transitioning because of the change in the Pancasvara Daša. So knowing the Pancasvara Daša enables you to first see what happens if you change the name, if you change the first vowel of the name. What can you change a person's focus? Can you change a person's direction? So we're getting into a realm of name changing, and some people will say we're moving into the topic of numerology, where in which we can have a significant impact on the name. This is always the first name, however. That is which affects the person's identity and changes the person's direction. So by using this information, we can affect the person's destiny and make the person focus on something other than what they're doing at that point in time in life. So this is why we use the Pancasvara Daša for names. Now, moving from there, we come to the last topic for this session, Lagna Bheda. And I showed some ice creams because now we're getting to something simple and also something nice. Lagna Bheda is done after one has finalized the first syllable of the name or letter, could be consonant or vowel. Then after that, having found the first vowel of the name. Then at this stage, you have to start finding how many syllables should be in the name, how many akshara. Not how many letters, we're not counting letters, we're counting akshara. How is this done? You have to count, when you say the name, the amount of syllables in the name. So for example, my name is Visti. Now, in the name Visti, there are 5 letters, but how many syllables are there? Visti. Visti. That's the number of aksharas. 1, 2. 2 aksharas are there. So, now, what would have been better for Visti? Okay? You want to always strengthen the quadrants in the chart. Kendras to the ascendant. That enables the person to be happy where they are. It also enables the person to be happy in their birth country. It gives support. It gives good support where you are. Now, I moved to a different place than my birthplace. I don't live in Kenya where I was born. I live in Denmark, and I've traveled the world. So what happens with the name Visti? See, 2-syllable names activate the movable signs. 2-syllable names activate the movable signs. So my name being 2 syllables, Visti, is activating the Chara Rashi or movable signs in the chart. And in my chart, the movable signs, being Scorpio ascendant, the movable signs are those of the 12th house, the 3rd house, the 6th house, and the 9th house. So what's happening? I'm activating my foreign stay, my foreign movement, moving to a different country. So for me, I will have more support in foreign countries. Okay? Even where I will live, I will more likely earn money from outside that country. And that's coming because of the activation of the 12th house and its Kendra, which means the movable signs. I have Jupiter, Mercury there. That's a blessing. So Visti is good for that. But it does mean where the person is, there's lack of support. So the person has to go abroad for that support. Learn a foreign trade, learn a foreign language, practice something which is foreign, have clients from foreign countries, earning from foreign places, in a bank account in a foreign country. When for all these things are happening because of the name is supporting that. It is supporting that direction. Now, in this, you have to learn the following. Movable signs, 2 akshara or 2-syllable names. Dual signs, 3-syllable names. Dual signs are 3 syllables. Fixed signs are 4 syllables. Now, what if a person has a 5-syllable name? Repeat from where we left off. A 5-syllable name will come back to the movable signs. A 6-syllable name will come back to the dual signs. And a 7-syllable name will come back to the fixed signs. What if the name is less than 2 syllables? 1 syllable, like Joe, all right? Joe. Some people actually named Joe. So that corresponds to the fixed signs. So like that, we have a way of knowing which kendras or which quadrant signs, which 4 signs are getting activated by the name. Preferably choose a name in quadrants to the ascendant if there's a blessing there. If there's no blessing, consider looking elsewhere. All right? But generally, we like to have support where we live, where we are. Now, in this, you have to examine the name carefully. A simple way to count the syllables is what I did, clap. Visti. Okay? Or for the name Sanjay, Sanjay. But here comes a problem. All right? Sometimes names which end with consonants can have a mild vowel sound which comes after that. Okay? For example, let's say the name Jawarhalal. Okay? Lal. Now the L that came at the end of Lal, that's actually a vowel sign. Jawarhalal. It's very difficult to catch. But you should be attentive that when you say the name, it's possible that another vowel ends after the consonant. Okay? So as a general, consider adding 1 vowel sound if the name ends with a consonant to check maybe this could be the appropriate name. By doing so, you are actually catching where the name rests. So let me give an example on the next slide. Here's the chart of Jawarhalal Nehru. And we already ascertained that why likely the first syllable was given, the first letter, why the first vowel sound was the akshara. And now we're doing the Lagna Bheda, and we see that in the name Jawarhalal, and we see Jawarhalal. Now that's actually 5 syllables in total because of the extra vowel sound which comes after the L, which is hard to catch, but it's a consonant ending, so we have to add it. And as a result of which, his name corresponds to a 5-syllable name. Now, 5 syllables, that corresponds to the movable signs again. Is that in quadrants to his ascendant? Yes, it is. It is in quadrants to his ascendant. So it would support him a lot in his birth country and would also give him a lot of support in the form of wealth, sustenance, and such things in that place where he would be born and living. So with those steps, essentially 3 steps: finding the first letter, finding the first vowel, and finding out the Lagna Bheda, we have done our work in finding the name. That's the most important aspect of finding the name. But the steps to do so could be quite intricate. I have shown for finding the letter in the previous webinar or lesson how to do so based on about 2 or 3 principles. And in this case, I showed finding the name and also name changes based on the vowel sound based on 2 to 3 principles. And then finally, we end with Lagna Bheda, which is ascertaining how many syllables the whole name should be. There are some additional steps to this, which are done following this. Based on the vowel sound, there is a topic of Garuda Varga, which is involved in that. And based on the final name, we should perform numerology, which in this case, Katapayadi Varga is used to ascertain the fortune of the whole name. That will be for another webinar, another lesson. I thank you for participating or listening to this webinar. I look forward to see your comments. And if you like this video, press like. Thank you.